Welcome into this edition of the Oxford Exxon Podcast. Chase Parham, Neal, McCready, Clark Ford studio this late morning, 11 o'clock or so. We hit the record button today. We'll talk some college football, probably some NFL, and whatever else over the course of the next hour and a little bit here with you. Alabama wins the national title last night, kind of obliterating Ohio State for the most part, as the Tide gets Nick Saban his 7th overall national title, his 6th at Alabama, and continues somewhat of a dynasty there in Tuscaloosa. Somewhat of a dynasty, yeah. I guess it counts, doesn't it?
Chris Landry had an incredible stat. Nick Saban's been a head coach. This is according to Chris. I have to go back and look at it. Nick Saban's been a head coach at, I guess he meant the Power 5 level.
Okay.
For 15 seasons. Is that right? That's not right.
No, yeah. It would be – he started at Michigan State in like 98-ish.
Yeah.
Without off the top of my head.
7 national titles in 20 years as a head coach.
Well, now you can go – he won his first one in 2003. So if you want to manipulate statistics, you can go since 2003 he has 7 titles.
Maybe that's what he means.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
So that had been the 2004 Sugar Bowl.
Yeah.
He won the first one.
Yep.
After the 2003 season.
Yep.
So, yeah, we'll talk some Saban today and more. The show brought to you every single day by the Oxford Exxon Highway 6 West in Oxford. Download the Speed Pass Plus app. It's an efficient way to pay right there at the pump. Don't have to go inside. If you don't want to, you can get back on the road. You can also earn points, and when you earn points, you save money with all Blue Sky locations in Mississippi, including the Oxford Exxon. But if you go inside, you can check out the hot case, barbecue, chicken, much more, including lunch specials that are $5.69 every single day. 2 sides of bread, 32-ounce drink at the Oxford Exxon. Again, coming to you from the Clark Ford studio.
We are Clark Ford's in Amory, Mississippi, 662-257-1900. Call that number. Ask for my friend Corey Clark. Tell Corey what Ford product you're looking for. He'll send you a quote within 15 minutes in business hours. Right to the bottom line. No hassle, no haggle. You get your quote, and the rest is up to you. You can shop it around, of course, or you can do what I've done, what I recommend that you do. Let's hop into a Clark Ford today. You'll love the product. You'll love the service. You'll love everything about what you get at Clark Ford. It's 662-257-1900. Guests, join us on the Rafters Music and Food Hotline. Rafters Music and Food, be a perfect place on the square in Oxford. Be a perfect place this weekend to hang out on Saturday. You get Ole Miss, Georgia basketball at 11 a.m. And then NFL playoffs start later that afternoon. You get 2 games Saturday, 2 games Sunday as the NFL hits the round of 8, and so you can enjoy the drink specials there. You can enjoy the po' boys, the burgers, catfish, shrimp. It's all there at Rafters Music and Food on the Square in Oxford and in New Albany.
Yeah, Nick Saban starts at Michigan State 1995, LSU in 2000, Miami Dolphins 05-06, and Alabama in 07. So 6 since 07, 7 since 03.
What I remember about the 2004 Sugar Bowl, this is back in the day where newspapers, the old guys, the seniority guys would get hung up on their trips. So that LSU team, the 2003 LSU team, I covered about 8 of its games. Essentially, was a quasi beat writer by the middle of the season. Yet, when LSU went to the SEC championship, I went to Atlanta. I covered that game. But when they made the national championship in New Orleans, the paper was going to send me because, well, I covered the league and I'd covered that team to the point where I had some real familiarity with the team. And this was back in the day where you still had some access, and so I knew some coaches, I knew some people. I was a quasi-familiar face, but the lead columnist at the time, and I won't name names because he's a nice person, but he was so obsessed with getting his trip
to go to New Orleans for the week.
To go to New Orleans for the week. I guess he wanted his Marriott points or whatnot, but he just wanted the trip. And so they sent him instead. No, I don't care. But the stuff that gets written is so surface level, and it was like, but we've covered this team.
We've been doing this story
all year. I mean, I've deep dived on LSU this year in a way that, I mean, we covered basically LSU that year, not like Alabama and Auburn, but close. What are we doing? I used to just get mind-boggled at some of the decisions that would get made because we were trying to protect some feelings and stuff like that. It drove me crazy.
Did you de-emphasize after they did lose to Florida? I mean, it was kind of mid-season. So, I mean, there for a little while, you thought, okay, they're kind of out of it, and then they get back in it because they don't lose again.
And I was at the Florida game.
Were you?
Yeah, and Chris Leak dominated them. And
they couldn't score.
Had trouble scoring.
Yeah.
They never did score a ton of points. They were a dominant defensive team. And I don't know if I de-emphasized. I thought when they went to Ole Miss – another game that I covered, I actually thought they were going to lose in Oxford. I thought that Ole Miss would be able to put enough points on that team that, if I remember right, I picked 20-17 Ole Miss. I kind of thought it would be that kind of game.
And it was.
But LSU's defense was so dominant that day that and I thought, not to go down this deep, I thought Cutcliffe was too conservative. I think he thought, hey, we can score 17 to 20 points and win. And he probably was right, but they couldn't get the points, and they waited too long to open it up. But after that, I thought they're going to win the championship. I thought there were two things on the line that day. I thought Eli Manning's Heisman was on the line that day, and I thought LSU's national title was on the line that day. Once LSU beat Ole Miss, I remember telling the people at the newsroom, we need to dive in on this LSU team because they're going to win the championship. They're going to win the whole thing. And because they blew out Arkansas on that Friday.
Beat Georgia and Atlanta, I think.
Pounded Georgia and Atlanta, and then yeah, you know the rest. So yeah, that was.
Was that Chad Lavallee? Was he defensive tackle? Was that Lavallee?
Yeah, he was on that team. Marcus Spears was on that team.
Was he?
Yeah.
Okay.
They were good. They were good. They were really good on defense. You look back on that Florida game though, and that was in October because it was the day of game 4 of the NLCS between the Cubs and the Marlins. So it was in October. It was middle of the year in Florida.
It's October 11th. I've got it up right
Florida
here.
punched them hard.
Well, and they had survived Georgia a couple weeks before because Georgia kept missing kicks, if I remember correctly.
Game.
Yeah.
Yep. And Georgia missed kicks. Georgia kind of dominated the game.
Yeah. And LSU survived 17-10 and got out of there.
Mm-hmm. It was not Saban's best team.
But they just did not give up points. I mean, you look at the entire year. 7-13, 7-10, 6, 19, 7, 10, 3, 14, 24, 13, 14.
Yeah.
What else you gave up there?
Yeah.
Beat Oklahoma 21-14 in the final.
Yep. I did not cover that one.
Beat Georgia 34-13 in Atlanta.
Covered that one.
And yeah, just rolled Arkansas 55-24 and
covered that one
in Tiger Stadium. So
that was the day that I rolled into Baton Rouge, really not thinking about anything but just getting done. I was tired. I'd been up in Oxford for the Ole Miss LSU game, had spent the most of the week in Oxford, and then hustled to Baton Rouge to cover that game, and got there and not thinking about what I had on. And I got out and I had kind of a red shirt on, and it was like, oh God. And I scrounged through my car looking for anything else. Yeah, going, oh God, this walk is going to be brutal, and it was. I got called every name under the book walking to the press box.
Did you really?
Mm-hmm. But I was slammed. I mean, I was covered. That was the year I was covering the Saints too. I mean, there was so much. I was just blown away. And Caroline was an infant. And
who lost? Did they just jump because they beat Georgia, or did somebody lose to get them into the championship in 03? Do you remember? Because they're ranked number 3 going into Atlanta, and then they obviously end up number 2.
Yeah, I don't remember. Did Oklahoma lose?
I would assume not, because they're number. Well,
someone lost that day.
Okay.
I remember being in the Georgia Dome, watching somebody else lose, realizing the door.
They did. They played Oklahoma, though, in the final. But yes. Oklahoma did lose. They lost to Kansas State.
Yeah. Somebody else, I don't know. Beats me.
It doesn't matter.
I don't recall. That's 18 years. No way I can remember that.
I'm sure somebody in the stream probably knows, but. This topic. Tony says, why is Kiffin hang out with Bama players? Recruiting. It was a favor for you guys. Chill out.
It was recruiting, and you know.
It's his guys.
Look,
he coached them.
Lane's going to spend a lot of time in Boca, which is near Miami. The game was in Miami. He recruited a lot of those guys. He went.
Mm-hmm. Hanging out.
I got to tell you, Tony, this everybody's going to realize this about guys like Kiffin. Kiffin's not going to be Mr. Ole Miss. It's just not going to happen. Going to coach you. I think he's starting to like it. I think he likes Oxford and all that stuff, but he'd be a fool to run from his role in the Alabama legacy. I mean, he's a part of that dynasty.
Yeah, there's much worse things than him hanging out with a bunch of NFL players last night.
When it's over, and it will eventually end, I don't know when, but it will eventually end, and when it does, and someone writes the comprehensive book on Nick Saban's Alabama dynasty, and that is exactly what it is, Lane Kiffin's going to get a chapter. And he'd be a fool not to embrace that chapter. And he has embraced it, as he should. And if you're a recruit out there, you like to be reminded that, hey, I was part of this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they couldn't get on the sidelines, so Bama bought a suite for the former players to have somewhere to congregate.
Yeah. Well, it's easier to drink that bottle of Hennessy up in the box than it would be on the sideline anyway, so it probably worked out best for everyone involved.
Raekwon is still one huge human being, too. Good God. I know it took over Twitter last night, but Jesus.
He's a big boy.
He made the rest of those dudes look quite small, which a lot of them were skill players, but still. It was Julio and Ruggs and
a lot of talent in that room.
A little talent in that room.
A lot of talent on that team. It was a dominant performance.
It was going to be a tough sled no matter what. Fields was certainly hurt.
Yeah.
Trey Sermon goes out on the first series.
Yeah.
That's killer right there.
That was it.
Because you had to keep up.
Yeah.
And without Sermon, they had no way to keep up. Bama's fine on defense. They got better as the year went on. They're not great. They don't have to be great, but they're not great.
No, they're fine. They're solid.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to stop you enough for that offense to beat you.
Talk about Jimmys and Joes and whatnot. Probably goes down as the top recruiting class for any team in history. Half of their offensive players they signed in that 17 class finished in the top 5 for the Heisman during the course of their careers. Just a remarkable stat.
The list of remarkable stats is just off the chart.
I'm incredibly happy that Jalen Waddle got through that game without an injury or making it worse.
It's something to talk about. Chris and I talked about this a lot this morning. It speaks volumes to me about the culture that they've built there. That Jalen Waddle, who's a top 10 pick, wanted to play.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted to play. I'm not sure they wanted him to play, but he wanted to play.
Yeah, they didn't need him.
And I don't know what you tell a kid like that when he says, I want to play. I guess you let him play. He didn't play much.
They pick and chose spots.
They wanted him to have his moment.
He was hobbled.
He'd earned that moment, and he wanted to play. Devontae Smith, I think, breaks a finger, dislocates a finger.
Yeah.
He wants to play. They're like, no, it's good. Stop. Landon Dickerson wanted to play.
Yeah.
Wanted to risk his NFL potential to play in that game.
Suited up, warmed up. They let him take a couple knees there at the end.
It says something, I don't know what, about their culture. I think Chris is right. He said this on SEC Football and Beyond. It's up. It's in this podcast stream. He talked about how this is the part of their evaluation that they don't get credit for. Right here. Yeah, they recruit a bunch of 5-star kids. They also recruit kids who football means more to them. They do a deeper dig on the emotional aspect of kids than a lot of other programs, and it shows.
Well, they have to get the kid that does what they require there, which is a 100% full team buy-in.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, we talk about machines and whatnot with Alabama, and it's true in a lot of different ways, but a lot of the reason that it comes off like that isn't just because they have the best players or just anything else. It's because they have a system in place where it is not about you, the individual. Yeah, you're going to get yours, and you're going to go to the NFL, and you're going to win a lot of awards. You're going to do all these different things, but they don't do things that harm the team.
Yeah.
Team first. You can use all the cliches and all the crap and all whatever, but with Alabama, it's pretty much true. And it is a much harder task and a much more sized accomplishment than what Calipari has done at times at Kentucky to get them to buy in, to be team, to do what you have to do. And Saban does it year after year after year. And, yeah, it has to do with a lot of different things. And I do think you're right. I think there has to be a mental element to it where they know that's what they're getting because, look, you can't, tigers and changing stripes. You can't just go recruit whomever and go, oh, they're going to buy in. Don't worry about it. We'll get it knocked out. Nah, that's too simplistic.
Right.
You've got to have a pretty good idea of what's going on before you bring them into the program. And, I mean, it's what everybody tries to emulate, and they've done it best for a long time. And then once you get the culture established, it's also obviously easier to maintain.
Yeah.
Because you come in as a freshman and all the upperclassmen go, no, dude, this is it. This is how this works. Shut up. This is what you do every day. Here's what we do. Here's what we do. And if you get just a little off course, the old man's going to lose his freaking mind. That's it. It's a contract. You do everything I'm telling you to do, and when I'm done, you're going to put you in the league.
And he's shown a softer side. You saw some of it last night, late in the game. He lets Dickerson run out there. He teared up in the post game. Give them credit. They faced the same set of distractions that everyone else faced this year. They never blinked. They were completely locked in.
Their only even potential stumble was they let Florida kind of get to them a little bit in the second half in Atlanta.
Ole Miss gave them a run.
Yeah.
Florida gave them a run. Nobody else even played with them. And in those games, I never once, in the Ole Miss game, in the Florida game, thought, they're going to lose. Not once. Their offense was too good. It's a historically great offense. And yesterday, Sarkeesian, I mean, he's a guy that spends the 2 weeks leading up to that game, or the week leading up to that game, week and change, as the Texas head coach, trying to hire staff at Texas, trying to get things done at Texas, calls a brilliant game.
He did call one hell of a football game because, look, everybody was dogging Ohio State. And, look, a couple times it was fair, and I don't know what they were doing defensively. But a lot of the reason Devontae Smith was getting such free releases is because what Sarkeesian was doing, moving him around and confusing Ohio State defensively. They couldn't keep up with Smith and where they were putting him, and then they're trying to switch off and do this, and you can't cover him man-to-man, and it's just you end up with a linebacker on him, and he runs for, he catches the pass for a touchdown. That's what happens. I mean, he had 215 in the first half last night. Looking back, Ole Miss was his coming out party. He had that huge game against the Rebels last year. Had like 275, 280 receiving against Ole Miss in 19.
Yeah.
And you knew him because he was the big recruit and whatnot, but otherwise it's like, oh, he's that dude. It's not Ruggs or it's not Judy or whomever. It's Devontae Smith.
He caught the touchdown pass against Georgia in the championship his freshman year.
Yeah.
It's remarkable what they've done. I mean, I say this all the time. It's the sobering reminder for the rest of the SEC. You cannot achieve the goals that you state without getting past them. You got to get past them to get to the championship. For Ole Miss, for LSU, for Mississippi State, for Auburn, for Arkansas, for Texas A&M, that is sobering. Because they just landed the number one recruiting class in the country again. I looked at ESPN's preseason top 25. I looked at Brett McMurphy's preseason top 25. Alabama's number 2 in both of those.
Number 2.
I'd put them at number 1.
Who's 1?
Clemson. Okay. Clemson in 1, Ohio State in 1.
Okay.
For me, it's Alabama until someone beats Alabama. A no-brainer.
They open with Miami next year.
Yeah.
Well, they'll be in Atlanta at the same time Ole Miss is. That's also a Chick-fil-A kickoff game.
Yeah. Ole Miss plays
Louisville.
They didn't put a date on that yet, right?
Well, they're both technically scheduled for Saturday, but they won't. One of them will move to Thursday or Monday.
Yeah.
There'll be one game on Saturday and one game on Thursday or Monday. The thought process is that Ole Miss will move because Alabama has an SEC game the following Saturday and Ole Miss has another bye game the next Saturday. So the thought is that Ole Miss will actually play on Monday or night. Thursday for their opener. Yeah, they'll either kick off college football on the Thursday in Atlanta or they'll play the Labor Day game that everybody always talks that is whatever.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's kind of the thought there. So whatever. Yeah, I don't know. Last thing before we go to break. If you're an NFL GM, what do you do with Mac Jones? How high would you potentially take him?
I was looking at whose was it? It was a mock draft. I think it was CBS. I think it was CBS. It was a mock draft. I think it was CBS. It was a mock draft. I think it was CBS. It was a mock draft. I think it was CBS. It was a mock draft. I think it was CBS. It was a mock draft. I think it was CBS. It was a mock draft. I think it was CBS. It was a mock draft. I think it was CBS. It was a mock draft. I think it was CBS. It was a mock draft. I think it was CBS. It was a mock draft. I think it was CBS. It was a mock draft. I think it was CBS. It was a mock draft. I think it was CBS. It was a mock draft. I think it was CBS. It was a mock draft. I think it was CBS. It was a mock draft. I think it was CBS. It was a mock draft. I think it was CBS. It was a mock draft. I think it was CBS. It was a mock draft. I think it was CBS. It was a mock draft. I think it was CBS. It was a mock draft. I think it was CBS. It was a mock draft. I think it was CBS. It was a mo CBS Sports did a mock draft. Had him in the middle of the first round. Feels about right. I think he's an NFL quarterback.
Yeah, I think he's an NFL quarterback.
I don't know that he has the huge monster arm.
Throws a very accurate deep ball. He's a great distributor. The numbers are fantastic. You watch him and you just don't remember a lot of phenomenal plays. You know what I mean? He played point guard incredibly well, and I don't mean that as a negative. He doesn't jump off the page at you when you're watching him play quarterback. I mean, he's by far better than anybody other than two that they've had at quarterback. But
so I'm looking at CBS right now. They've got – so this makes some sense. So one mock draft, this is Ryan Wilson, has Mac Jones going 15 to New England.
Okay.
Another has – and this makes sense. Mac Jones going 19 to Washington.
Okay.
And the other has Mac Jones. He doesn't even have him in the first round.
Okay. Yeah, I thought mid to late was kind of where he probably would be sitting there. You mentioned those top 25s. We'll talk about those in a second. Before we do that, I'll tell you about Community Mortgage, Oxford, Memphis, Soto County, and Chattanooga. All underwriting and processing is done in Memphis. They're getting local underwriting that understands your market, a leader in condo financing, the float down option, and more. You can find Jason at 662-234-2704 or JLOWE at communitymtg.com.
We're also brought to you by our friends at Muddy Water Camo. Go to muddywateroutdoors.com, enter promo code Rebel Grove at checkout. It's through January the 31st. You get 35% off by entering the promo code Rebel Grove at checkout. You get that 35% off on those heated jackets or anything else on the site for the month of January. If you get the heated jacket or the heated vest, you get a free MyCharge portable battery charger. It's a $49 value with every purchase of the jacket or vest, and that includes free shipping as well. Those jackets are amazing. 3 different temperature settings, triple zone heating, 2 elements in the chest, and a large back element. It's premium duck goose down insulation, windproof shell fabric with water-resistant finish. It's got an integrated iPhone charging cable accessed inside the chest pocket and so much more. It's a fantastic jacket. I've got one of them, and you should check out their stuff. So again, muddywateroutdoors.com. Enter promo code Rebel Grove. I'd also like to welcome Alpha Specialties to the podcast. They're located at 1670 Highway 80 in Pearl, Mississippi. It's your trailer-specific professional. If you want to haul it, they can call it. Alpha's the perfect premium trailer dealership in Mississippi. They've got Load Trail. It's the premium brand trailer, the highest quality utility equipment dump and gooseneck trailers being built today. Fully primed, powder-coated Load Trail trailers come with an industry-leading 3-year warranty and 2 years of roadside assistance. They also have the Hallmark cargo trailers. It's one of the most quality cargo trailers on the market, perfect for hauling goods to markets and shows, ATVs to deer camp, hauling race cars, and more. Can even work with third parties to have game day trailers and concession trailers built just for you. And for podcast listeners, Alpha has spare tires and wheels starting at just $100. Alpha has a full selection of trailer parts, accessories, hitches, winches, straps, and more. They also do all types of truck accessories. Listeners to our podcast can get 10% off a yearly trailer service and inspection at Alpha's full-service shop. They can also repair all types of trailers, concession, horse, utility, enclosed, gooseneck, RV, and more. So give them a call, 601-932-9798, or check them out at alphaofms.com. That's ALPHA of MS.com. Make sure you tell them that you heard about Alpha on the MPW Digital Network of podcast. And we're brought to you by Comer Heating and Air. They've got you covered for all of your heating and air needs in Oxford, Tupelo, and the surrounding area. More than 50 years of professional HVAC experience is what you get when you call Comer Heating and Air. Get in touch with them now. Make sure your heating system is running in tip-top shape. Call them at 662-801-1777 for all of your heating and cooling needs. That's Comer Heating and Air, 662-801-1777.
Podcast is brought to you by Northeast Spark. Spark stands for Service People Across Rural Communities. They have a couple different package for your internet needs. The Ignite package, which is 100 megabytes per second, or the Blaze, 1 gig per second. That powers us here in the Clark Ford studio. Your hometown team bringing you world-class broadband. Go to NESpark, that's SPARC.com, or give them a call at 662-238-3159. They also have phone service available, parental controls, network security, wireless mesh extenders, and more. So call the office, because if they are in your area, it is the service you get. Again, NESpark.com.
I've got some. So these mocks that are up,
sure.
I've got 3, all from just CBS.
Okay.
This is Ryan Wilson. He's got Trevor Lawrence going 1. Everybody agrees to that. He's got Penei Sewell, the offensive lineman from Oregon, going 2. Most everybody else has Justin Fields from Ohio State going 2. He's got Zach Wilson going 3, the quarterback from BYU. He's got Fields going 4. Devonta Smith from Alabama, of course, going 5. Then it's Jamar Chase, Micah Parsons, the linebacker from Penn State, Caleb Farley, the cornerback from Virginia Tech, Kwity Paye, the defensive lineman from Michigan, and Patrick Surtain, the cornerback from Alabama. He's got him going 10 to the Cowboys. Of the other 2, let's see, another has Surtain going 10, and then another has Kyle Pitts going 10, because the other one has Surtain going 6 to the Philadelphia Eagles.
Oh, so a little higher up. You mentioned these way too early top 25 things. Ole Miss getting some buzz in those. The Rebels ranked in 3 of them this morning. ESPN, that's Mark Schlabach, has Ole Miss at number 18. The Sporting News, Bill Bender has the Rebels at 21. And then Stuart Mandel from The Athletic has them at number 22 to kick off the top 25, so a year early.
I saw where Brett McMurphy has them at 24.
Okay. Looking here at Stuart Mandel's top 25, Bama 1, Oklahoma 2, Clemson 3, Georgia 4, A&M at 5, Ohio State 6, Iowa State 7, Cincinnati 8, LSU 9, seems a little high, Notre Dame at 10 in his. Looking for SEC schools, kind of flipping through. North Carolina at 14. That's interesting just because of Sam Howell, obviously, the whole Matt Corral comparisons for next season. Coastal Carolina at 15. He has the Chanticleers at 15.
They don't lose much.
They're good. They're competitive.
It appears that Jamie Chadwell's going to stay there another year.
Yeah, basically what he says that they lost a running back, but everybody else, pretty much the entire rest of the starting lineup is returning.
Yeah, they lose virtually nothing.
And they play a schedule where they could go 12-0. So makes some sense. Indiana at 16, that does feel high.
It feels high, but I do think Tom's built a culture there that
and they get Michael Penix back from injury.
Penix back, and Freifogel stayed, and got to change defenses a little bit, but it'll be.
And they get Ryder Anderson.
Yeah.
He transferred to Indiana. Florida at 17. Texas at 19. Miami at 20. Speaking of Alabama's opponent, because De'Aaron King is back for the Hurricanes for a 6th season next year.
Yeah, coming off the ACL.
Yeah, he's coming back. Penn State 21. Ole Miss 22. Liberty 23. So we've got a top 25 matchup coming against Hugh here at some point.
Oh, we've got a chance at having a really big moment. That could be a November game between an Ole Miss team that's 7-3,
yeah,
against an undefeated Liberty team, ranked.
You getting all that buzz again, and
we're
number 14 and number 16 or something.
Game Day spends a segment on it. We do 3 night shows.
Maybe they're in town. You back in Oxford?
Ole Miss would probably have to be top 10 for that to happen.
Or just have a dud week. Sometimes it's dependent on the week that there is. Mandel about Ole Miss says Kiffin produced a top 10 offense in 2020, and Corral will be back to run it again. Elijah Moore turned pro, but seniors Ontario Drummond and Braylon Sanders are back. Jerry and Ely and Snoop Connor are proven playmakers. Ole Miss's 115th ranked defense needs to get a lot better, but most of its upperclassmen are coming back, including linebackers Sam Williams and Jacquez Jones. He didn't mention your boy Henry Parrish there. Dude just completely mentioned every running back but Mr. Parrish. Sporting news, just see if anything kind of sticks out crazy from an Ole Miss opponent standpoint as I flip through it. A&M 7, Florida 8, LSU 12, Indiana 16 in that one as well.
12 is way too high for LSU. I'm just telling you, it's way too high.
21 for Ole Miss, Auburn 22, Coastal 23, in that one. Liberty not ranked in the Sporting News, way too early, top 25. And then in ESPN's, as you mentioned, just looking through again, see if anything's kind of an outlier. I don't think it is. Looks like it's pretty standard for Mark.
Mark has Ole Miss at 18.
I think that's right.
And that feels a little high.
That does feel high. Florida at 16, Wisconsin 17, Ole Miss 18, UOL at 19.
Yeah, he does not have he has LSU at 20, doesn't he?
Yes, he has LSU at 20. Yeah, he says about Ole Miss, Kiffin showed the SEC that his teams can score against almost anyone, piling up 35 against Florida and 48 against Alabama and LSU. The problem, the Rebels surrendered a total of 167 points in those games and lost all three. Ole Miss can improve just a little bit on defense in 2021. It might be good enough to take the next step in the SEC West. Matt Corral's returning. And John Rice Plumlee showed what we can do with the ball in his hands at the Outback Bowl. The Rebels will miss more. And Uboa, the defense got a boost when top pass rusher Sam Williams and linebacker Lakia Henry opted to return.
That's fair.
That's fair. Yeah. So.
I have a hard time putting Ole Miss anything ahead of 20 just because I got to see what it looks like on defense. You're going to have to show me on defense that you're significantly better. There's such a liability on that side of the ball, as we saw for 10 games.
To jump into the conversation we're talking about.
Right. Yeah, I have no problem. Once anywhere from 21 to 25, it's cool. Yeah. If you put them above that, I'm like,
You're saying they're about to really.
Well, you're making an assumption.
Yeah.
And that's okay. It's a preseason poll on January the 11th. Whatever. It's fine.
Nobody's going to hold it against you.
But if you're asking me, hey, are you willing to make that assumption? Not yet. I got to see something else. I mean, what do you look like defensively after everything sorts out? Do you add a defensive player in the transfer market? Do you close on Tywan Malone? There's some things that I'd have to have answered before I could do that. But I do think they'll be better on defense. I do think they will be better. But you're asking me, can they go from on a scale of 1 to 100, with 1 being, God, you're absolutely awful, to 100, where would you put Ole Miss on a 1 to 100 scale? As
defensively
in SEC
right
terms?
now?
Yeah, just pure defense, what you saw this past season. A 20?
Tops. I was going to say less.
Okay, so
they're the worst defense in SEC history statistically.
So call it a 10.
Well, I'm sorry, Tennessee's worse. They have one other one.
All right, make it a 15.
Sure.
Do you really think they're going to go from 15 to 75 on that scale, 1 to 100?
Well,
the answer is no.
If they're inside, if they're better than 21 or 22, you're saying that their defense is going to be a top 55 national defense, 60, jumping from 129.
Yeah, and that's too big of a jump for me.
Yeah,
I don't think that's realistic.
If they're just barely ranked and have a good season, it's because the offense was explosive again and they became a top 75, 80 defense, and let's get off the damn field occasionally.
It's the equivalent of taking a Major League Baseball team that wins 64 games one year and going, you know what, I think they're going to win 100 games. No, they're not. They're not going to jump 36 games. Now, can you go from being a 64-win team to an 81-win team? Well, sure. Can you go from being an 81-win team to a 94-win team that goes to the World Series? Yes, of course. But are you going to make that jump from 64 games to 100 games? No, not in 1 year. Doesn't happen. And so expecting a defense that was deplorably bad to be aggressively good in one season, no. Now, can they go from deplorably bad to average, to good, to great, like a jump? Yeah, sure. And if they're average on defense this year and the offense is about what it was this past year, well, you're going to go from being a 500 team to being a 750 team or better, where you could go 9-3 in the regular season, which would be a monumental achievement. And you could do that with an average defense. But if you're asking your defense, that's why when people go, hey, I think Ole Miss is going to win 10 or 11 games next year. I'm like, okay, well, take your fan glasses off first, put them down, and tell me how a defense that bad becomes good enough to win 11 games. Because you're now saying that the offense will never even take a quarter off.
Yeah, sure.
And that's not realistic. You're being a fan. Can they be good enough to be 8-4, 9-3? Yeah, I think so. I do. Is 9-3 going to be pretty exciting in year 2?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, because then those 3 losses, you're probably challenging people. You're probably not getting curb stomped one time. That's realistic. But expecting the defense to be so good that you make that leap into a playoff contender type of team, I think is not a realistic expectation.
Yeah. Yeah, actually in 90 to 91, it was the Braves and the Twins. The Twins sucked in 92. That was two last-place teams that ended up in the World Series the next year.
But it's rare.
Oh, yeah. I just remember that pretty well.
The Braves had also some Hall of Fame caliber pitching.
Things kind of
that was coming along, yeah.
There was some light at the end of the tunnel.
I didn't see a young Tom Glavine or a young John Smoltz on the Ole Miss defense last season. So you got to go out and get that elsewhere. Now, I do think they'll be better with a full season of Otis Reese.
But you got to count on the JUCO kids being good day one, and that's always a
day one
coin flip.
Right. You're asking Isaiah Iton to come in,
Jamon Gordon,
and to be, hey guys, I know one day you're going to be really good, but what we kind of need you to do is we need you to be great on September the 3rd.
Yeah, you can't even have them do kind of what, like one of our favorites, like Wayne Dorsey. He was fine in year one. He was pretty damn good in year two.
Right.
Takes a minute.
Which is your typical JUCO thing.
Yeah. A lot of those guys, actually. Uriah Grant.
You look, Kia Henry to
got to take a step now.
Got to take a step.
Yeah.
Fairly significant. When you need Sam Williams to play 13 games like the one that he played on January the 2nd, you're asking a lot. Could it happen? I guess, sure. But, to me, in Ole Miss next year in the West, the ceiling is second place. The floor is fifth.
State and Arkansas.
Yeah, I think Arkansas and State are the bottom two teams in the West. Alabama's the best team in the West. And then you can make an argument for Ole Miss, for Auburn, for Texas A&M, and for LSU for the second spot. I think you can make a really compelling argument for A&M if you buy that, hey, they weren't just Kellen Mond.
Sure.
Because he's leaving, and you got to replace him.
They got to figure that out. And they had a ton up front. They were really good up front.
Yeah. Auburn's got the running back, got a lot of personnel back. They're going to be a talented team. But you've got to convince me that Bo Nix is going to be more than a pedestrian quarterback, or that they're going to move on to a different quarterback. So there's the assumption there. And with LSU, you've got to convince me that Ed Orgeron reaching out to Joe Brady and going, just tell me somebody to hire, and then hiring them is not a grasp in the dark.
Trying to recreate that when. Not Joe. It's a copy of a copy at this point.
Yeah, I mean that's cheapening how good Joe Burrow was.
Joe Brady.
I meant Burrow too.
Okay, yeah.
Because you had, you played that year with the number one pick in the draft.
Who you got? Last year LSU, this year Alabama.
Do what now?
Who do you have? That game was played.
This year's Alabama.
Do you?
I think they would have just outscored them.
I think LSU's a little better defensively.
That Alabama offense is just
it's
a machine.
70-65.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
they're a machine offensively.
They are. Burrow would have picked apart that secondary.
Yeah, of course. But I think Alabama would have scored at will on that LSU defense. And they would still be trying to tackle Najee Harris.
Best player on the field. Dude.
He's special.
I think he's the best player. If I've got to buy NFL careers on one of those three Alabama players that finished in the top 5 of the Heisman, I want Najee Harris.
So I'm seeing where Harris is in these mocks. It just shows you where running backs are valued.
And that's part of it, is that it is what it is. But his ability to pass catch.
So one has Najee Harris going 29 to the Saints. Another has
I'm all in.
Harris.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Sounds great.
I'm looking. Another has Harris not in the first round, unless I'm missing something. No, okay. Another one's got Harris not in the first round. And then another one not in the first round.
It's a running back thing. But I'm
Boy,
telling
if
you,
Najee Harris falls to you in the first part of the second round, you got to be going. Can you imagine? Like if you're Jacksonville.
And you get Lawrence and then Najee sitting there in the second round.
You don't sleep that night. You can't wait to get to the draft.
Can I go ahead and just hand you my
you're just like sprinting.
Yeah, Jacksonville, you now have 15 minutes on the clock. No, I'm good.
Goodell's like, good. We'll start the second round now. And we're ready. That's where Goodell's like, we got to pay some bills.
He can do a little bit of everything. He's
a stud and competes.
Because if it's 2012, he's the Heisman Trophy winner because things aren't opened up and it is what it is.
I love his competitiveness. And Surtain can play for me any day he wants. It ain't no secret why they're winning.
Oh, well, no. I mean, come on. Factory.
Who do you take first if you're an NFL team and you're taking receiver at 5? You going Devonta Smith or are you going Jamar Chase?
Going Devonta. He's dynamic as hell. He's a great player. If you told me he's not just a complete superstar in the NFL, though, I would also buy it.
Would you take Smith over Waddle? Would you think about taking Kyle Pitts over all of the above?
No, I can't take Pitts. I just can't. It's in Waddle. I mean, he's banged up. I probably fine, but I just I'm taking Smith of that group. But damn, I don't love wide receiver right there. If there's anything else on the board,
Kadarius Toney falls. That's the thing about wide receivers. There's other wide receivers that you can go get later in the round.
Yeah, I don't. If I need anything else in that area where I can go and grab the 7th or 8th guy, I might do that right there.
Like this has Terrence Marshall going 27.
Yeah, there's dudes there.
There's dudes.
Yeah.
Nick Bolton, the linebacker from Missouri, who I think is a really good player. They got him going 31 to the Packers. Good player.
Yeah. Podcast brought to you in part by Tyson Drugs and G&M Pharmacy, 662-236-2222. Still offering immune support med packs. Pharmacists develop combinations of vitamins and supplements designed to boost your immune system and lung health. 30-day supply of vitamin C, zinc, NAC, probiotic, and vitamin D3. You can get those at either location. They also deliver locally in the Oxford area. They offer MedSync for your prescriptions when you need them, one day a month, all in the same time to make it easy on you, whether it be pickup or delivery. Again, Tyson Drugs on the Square in Holly Springs or G&M on South Lamar in Oxford, 662-236-2222.
We have a soft verbal podcast. Zach Berry and I recorded it yesterday. You can listen to it on this podcast stream or you can watch it on our YouTube channel. It's brought to you by the College Corner. It's one-stop Rebel Shop, 2 locations in the Jackson area. The College Corner is next to Fleet Feet in Ridgeland, and in Flowood, it's next to Half Shell. You can also go to collegecornerstore.com, find them on Facebook and Instagram. So whether you're tailgating in Oxford or home gating with friends and family, they've got you covered for game day. College Corner has the largest selection of Rebel gear in Central Mississippi. Again, collegecornerstore.com. Also brought to you by Pinnacle Trust. Our friends at Pinnacle Trust are also home to the Pinnacle Trust 401k Advisory Services team. Contact them today, and they'll conduct a complimentary no-obligation benchmarking and analysis of your current 401k. Mention you heard about Pinnacle Trust on the Oxford Exxon Podcast. You get 10% off your first year's fees. And we're brought to you by John Edwards, Regency Travel Incorporated in Memphis. Thinking about booking that summer trip. A lot of people getting their vaccines. People starting to get more and more encouraged. I actually read a pretty encouraging article about Major League Baseball and attendance, what they're anticipating when the season begins in April and as the summer goes along. So if you share that optimism, why not? It'd be a great time to book a trip. You get do it now, though. You can get great deals today on hotels, airfare, and such that you can't get anywhere else. Get in touch with John. Just say, hey, here's what I'm kind of thinking about doing. Here's some parameters. Here's a budget. He'll give you a ton of options that you will not find on your own. 901-494-3387. or jedwards@regencytravel.net. First-time clients can save $50 off their first booked trip just by telling John you heard about Regency Travel on the podcast. And we're brought to you by Grenada Nissan. If you're in the market for a Nissan vehicle, Grenada Nissan has a complete selection of new and previously owned Nissan vehicles. Great lease deals as well. It's GrenadaNissanUSA.com. Got a COVID basketball game's been canceled today. Tennessee Vanderbilt were scheduled to play today.
Oh, really?
Vanderbilt has COVID issues. If you notice, Vanderbilt and Missouri are the two that always have COVID issues.
Yeah, I feel like they are not doing a whole lot to play around any issues
they're taking the rules very seriously.
Yeah, they're not doing what Lane said. We're just going to kind of take who we got and play the game. It is what it is.
Lane never bothered to count to 53.
He knew he couldn't get there.
It's like we're just going to play.
The number is what the number is for the bowl game.
We're going to play. Vanderbilt goes, you know what? We're good.
Cross all sports.
Yeah.
Sorry, I bet baseball plays. What's do we know? I guess it's just a percentage number. We can come up with it, but what basketball is losing with these crazy attendance policies right now?
Heard some numbers.
Maybe
going from making like a program that typically makes about $5 million is going to lose about $3 million.
Really?
Pretty significant.
Another blow.
When football,
all the sports combined, judging off tickets, seat donations, and parking. I'm doing a little quick math in my head. I'm going to say COVID's costing $50 million. Because I'm going to say football lost somewhere around 35. We'll say basketball lost 8. We'll say baseball loses 5-ish.
I remember when we were getting ready for the Ole Miss South Carolina game, and I was talking to Chris Clark, and we were talking about South Carolina's budget. Normally, athletically, they basically break even.
Okay.
Across the board.
Sure.
They were projecting a loss of between $55 and $65 million.
Really?
It's for the people who do. I'm not. This isn't. I've said this all along. I'm consistent on this. I'm a capitalist. You can't do another year like we just did. It just won't work. And so at some point, you have to be willing to say, and I keep waiting for these university presidents and ADs and stuff to say it. Hey, look, I know this is going to ruffle some of you. Dan, you're going to lose your mind about what I'm about to say, but we got to open up. And if you don't want to come, it's cool. I get it, but we got to open up. I think the vaccine is the vehicle to say, all right, if you want to get vaccinated, you can get vaccinated. We're opening up. And I think by April and May, I think you'll be able to say those words.
I was a little proud of the sports media. Pretty much everybody dunked on Dan yesterday. Across the board.
They did, but then some of the very same ones who dunked on Dan dunked on all the people in Tuscaloosa who celebrated a championship. And those kids are 19, 20, 21 years old. There is some science now.
Dan was such a selective, which you knew was going to happen. I don't know why I looked. Selective arguer of, we went to the cases rule first. Forget to ask cases. And then tried, because Van Pelt made the point in his reply to him. The kids were actually got so much more medical attention than your normal college student. That because Scott's reply was something like, hey, I didn't get around people. I wore a mask, and I ended up with it too. Like, your point is, you can't act like it's zero was going to get it if you didn't play football. Frankly, you were healthier over the course of the situation because you were getting tested and monitored in so many different ways that you were being evaluated far more than your typical college student if there's not a season.
Well, Caroline got it. She doesn't play football. I got it. I don't play college football. And I got it at a time when I was staying home because I didn't want to accidentally get it and put Campbell in a situation where she couldn't do rush.
Yeah.
I got it staying home. And if I went anywhere in this town, you have to wear a mask or you'll get assassinated. And the only places I ever went in this town this summer was the grocery store and the liquor store, if I'm just being completely honest with you. And I wore a mask the whole time. And I got COVID. Dan's argument was so stupid. For a smart guy, what it did, and Dan's a smart guy, What it did was it revealed just how personal and agenda-driven this thing has been for him. Dan wanted it to get canceled. That's what he wanted. His ideology was so strong that he wanted it to get canceled, even if that meant he lost his job. He didn't give a shit about anyone else's jobs, about anyone else's livelihood. All he cared about is his agenda. His idealism. Screw him. That's a joke. He deserved to get dunked on by everybody. Everybody who dunked on him, he deserved it. And all he ever had to do at any point yesterday was say, you know what, I'm wrong. But he can't. He has to double and triple and quadruple down. And that's why there's no national dialogue, is because he's far from alone in that category. To assume that nobody who got COVID playing for a SEC school or a college football team, nobody who got COVID would have gotten COVID had there been no football is so laughingly stupid that it reveals your agenda, because I know Dan Wolken and he's not stupid. He's got a very high IQ. He's a very bright person. But his agenda has him just spinning like a top. It's insane. Just say, hey, I was wrong. And again, congratulations to Greg Sankey. I appreciate you.
A little bit of good news, actually, from the NCAA today. Mark Emmert stressing that they are getting this name, image, and likeness done, despite some opposition they're getting from some other areas right now.
Yeah, they're going to get it done, and they're going to get the no penalty transfer rule done. If anything, it's going to be more friendly. I thought one of the things that was interesting yesterday, I don't know if you saw it, was an interview with Sankey where he said we've got to fix this 25 rule too. It's antiquated.
Yeah, he said Emmert just now, like literally 2 minutes ago, says. Basically was asked, can you have a clarification on where the law stands, because people keep questioning him in politics or trying to stop him. And he says, we think we have it right, but it's been called into question. We need to pause to answer those questions. Let me be clear, though, our commitment to the modernization of the rules remains resolute. So they are trying to move forward as fast as possible, it appears, with those things. Yeah, you mentioned it. You mentioned here, Sports Illustrated, Ross Dellinger has a Q&A with Greg Sankey. Yesterday, his kind of money quote that Ross led with multiple times. We're not the ones who walked away. We all should have been more connected. The SEC didn't walk away.
Didn't. Sankey talked about feeling like he was on an island times in July. I know the feeling. Yeah.
Which gave all the people we're talking about even more ammunition, because they're going, hey, be gracious, but don't congratulate yourself. It was not a win. It's like,
shut up. God. It was absolutely a win. Greg Sankey would have been excused yesterday if he'd stripped down into a boxing uniform, put gloves on, and pretended to be Rocky running around the. I would have said, "Hey, it's justified." When people say, "Can you believe that idiot?" I'd be like, "No, is that Sankey? No, it's good."
Yeah.
Honestly, quite frankly, he should have done it, and everybody who appreciates what he did, and more, Chase, it's obvious it's him. It's not the league. It's him. We probably should have like that scene in Rocky where the kids start running behind him all through the streets of Philadelphia. We probably should have that moment.
Yeah, another quote, there were those that I think made every effort to communicate why we shouldn't try to play. They shamed the effort for trying. We did a lot right.
Did it all right.
Yeah.
You can say whatever you want to say about Sankey and different things. That's cool. A lot of legitimate arguments. I've made some of them. On this is his legacy, and it's a damn fine one.
Dellinger talking about he's talking to Sankey in the hotel lobby yesterday. Fan kind of interrupts the end of the interview. Asked Sankey how he's doing. Sankey responded, "Well, we're here." The fan said thank you and walked off.
The next time I see Greg Sankey, I'm just going to say thanks. You absolutely should.
Yeah, pretty good Q&A here, Sports Illustrated.
There's the quote. It's down in there a little bit about it's after all that when they kind of start getting into minutia. Ross asks him about the 25 transfer thing, and Sankey admits that it's wrong. We've got to fix it.
Yeah, he was frustrated that everybody's not on the same page with it. Was the quote he gave, pretty much. Yeah, there's like playoff stuff in here. There's some schedule stuff in here that's just kind of whatever. But
can you find the quote about the 25?
Yeah, I saw.
It's about transfer portal.
let's see.
It's basically saying that the way that was done in the past was for high schools and junior colleges, and it's a new day, and kids are going to transfer, and they've got to create more room for kids to be able to transfer.
See, the 25 is mentioned 3 times. Sankey has a quote that says, "The fact the NCAA can't get through that decision is a shame on us."
I think it's after that.
It has to change. The 25 initial counters were in an environment of recruiting freshmen and some junior college transfers, and that's not a lot of movement. Now we are in an environment where the transfer numbers continue to increase, and we have graduate transfers looking for opportunities, but they're also departing from programs at a much higher rate than a decade ago. You have medically exempt student athletes. One of the misunderstandings out there is young people were removed from scholarship if they're hurt. That doesn't happen. The pro departures dispute better information being provided, despite better, Ross has a typo. People are still departing at higher numbers and not being drafted. You got a much higher turnover rate. If you cap the entry with initial counters, you're going to leave scholarships unused. That's a bad outcome.
Yeah, they got to work that out. It's just so many guys.
It has to change.
It has to change.
Yeah.
So many guys are in that portal that aren't going to have a home. And, yeah, it's easy in one breath to go, well, you shouldn't have left. Okay, they're kids. I know everybody's going to say that. And when you get through saying that, come on down off your high horse and let's figure out how we do this now. Because there's a lot of guys that get bad advice from people back home or whatnot. And then once they're in the portal, now what? So when you get through going, well, you shouldn't have done it. You should have educated yourself. Okay, now what? How do you open up a way for these kids to get in? Because the other thing that's going to happen, and this is where it's not fair to the schools. Let's say you're a school that has a coaching turnover and 20 kids exit. You don't have any way to fill that. You're playing well under 85. And how, from I'm looking out for student athletes perspective, is that good? Because now all that does is you're taking away opportunities from young people, which is what it's supposed to be about.
Yeah, it's trapping both sides. It's helping no one right now.
Right.
It's just an antiquated rule that's now obsolete. They'll fix it. That's one they will get done because, like you said, it's not even like you're helping some or helping one side of it. It's just killing everybody.
Yeah.
The players hate it. The schools hate it.
Yeah.
Coaches hate it.
Yeah.
So fix it.
And most of the coaches that I've talked to, even though they're not just crazy about the transfer rule, they're like, it is what it is. To a man. They all say it's going to be that way.
You're going to have to deal with it.
So let's do it right. And when people go, well, it's going to create tampering, they all laugh at that like we've been tampering for years. I mean, tampering's simple. You know, they all have these 7-on-7 coaches. This is where a lot of it is. They all have these 7-on-7 coaches who coached the kids for years on the 7-on-7 circuit. The coaches know those guys because they recruit. And so Coach A says to 7-on-7 Coach B, hey, let player C know. I mean, we still loved him. We loved him. You know we're losing a cornerback, right?
I hate he's not available. You know
Gosh,
what?
boy, I wish there was a.
They got a damn good player over there. Just can't quite.
I wish there was another player B on your team right now because we'd sure snag him up. Now, is that tampering? Yeah. Is it going to get busted? No. The tampering that gets busted is when the assistant coach on your staff texts the player on another team that hasn't yet been released and says, we'd love to have you. Mm-hmm. That's tampering. And when you do that, you're going to get busted because it's right there.
Yeah, it's in baseball, it's become the summer coaches that do the middle ground. It's the right. Summer coach that calls the dude over there and goes, you know what, who I talked to yesterday, and he said he hates that you just didn't end up, now he can't talk to you, but he mentioned that if you happen to just jump in a portal or decommit or whatever, that
their third baseman left.
Yeah. Yeah, it is what it is. Again, if there's an environment where a black market can happen, a black market will happen.
Sure.
That's the way life works.
Sure. So, people are worried about tampering. You might as well just put your big boy panties back on because that tampering's been happening for a long time now. So what you want to do now is you want to create a system that allows kids to find a home. Mm-hmm. And again, happy kids don't leave.
Yeah, sure. From any program.
It creates an incentive to run your program the right way.
Yeah. Treat them fairly.
Treat them fairly, be honest. Happy kids don't leave.
Yeah. And kids you've been honest with, even if they are a little happy, they don't screw you on the way out the door.
Right.
It's all good.
And you'll have the kid that's a happy kid whose mom hits cancer and he says, I need to go back to Pennsylvania. Happen. Okay. Then let's create a system where he can.
Yeah.
You know, let's use Penn State as an example. A kid from Iowa signs with Iowa State, and he's loving it, and life's good. But something happens at home, and he needs to go to Pennsylvania. He needs to go play for Pittsburgh, is who he needs to go play for to get on scholarship. And Pittsburgh goes, well, I'd love to have him, but we don't have we used up all of our initials. Do you have room in your 85? Yeah, we're at 82.
Let's figure that out.
Okay, then let's make that work.
Yeah.
Without hanging up on it. And that's the kind of stuff that there's no room for that right now.
No, none. Kids just out of luck.
Kids got to go sit and wait a year and leave football until he gets away from his training and all that stuff. And a lot of times those kids never come back. It's not a good idea.
Podcast brought to you in part by Visit Oxford. Visit oxfordms.com is where you can find the events page, where to eat, where to stay, and much more. And Pop-Up Oxford is going on January 14th through 23rd. You can find out more there at popupoxfordms.com as well. The Fiber Arts Festival is going on. They've got a lot of different events, including the Outdoor Fabric Swap at the Powerhouse January 15th to 23rd from 3 to 5 on the 16th. The Language of Palestinian Embroidery with Wafa Name. There's a Zoom lecture. You can find out more at fiber.oxfordarts.com. January 17th, they've got knitting and sewing. Again, Zoom things. You can find out more on that website, as well as exhibits throughout the 3 different spots on the square throughout the week. So, again, you can find out all the events, everything going on with the cultural part of January in Oxford. Again, that is oxfordarts.com for more info there. And, again, visit oxfordms.com.
We're also brought to you by Blue Delta Jeans. If you're looking for a Valentine's Day gift that would be original, that would be appreciated, something that will last a long time, be different than some of the other stuff, get in touch with Blue Delta Jeans, bluedeltajeans.com. Hop into their social media, Instagram, Twitter, whatnot. Set up a private fitting. It'll be a really cool thing. And you get, as we've shown you throughout the football season, a wide variety of choices from denim to camouflage to the duck canvas and more there at Blue Delta Jeans, bluedeltajeans.com. Also brought to you by Oxford University Bank. OUB, locally owned and operated right here in Oxford. When you deposit money at OUB, that money and the vast majority of the bank's profits go right back into the Oxford community. They also offer their customers the absolute best cash checking account. It's called Kasasa, and with Kasasa, OUB will pay customers 2.5% interest on their balances up to $50,000 and refund ATM fees nationwide. They also offer online bill pay, mobile check deposit using their online app. To learn more about OUB, check out liveoxfordbankoxford.com or call 662-234-6668. OUB is FDIC insured. And we're brought to you by the law firm of Bain, Moss, and Bowen. They're located in historic downtown Corinth, Mississippi, and their firm practices a wider range of law, from DUI defense to car wrecks to representing government entities. Bain, Moss, and Bowen is the only firm in Mississippi made up of a sitting state legislator, a former assistant district attorney, and a former circuit court judge. Their experience is unmatched in that regard, and you can tap into it by visiting them at 618 East Waldron Street in Corinth or by calling them at 662-287-1620.
Not much else from Mark Emmert. Ross still live tweeting his press conference or whatever it is, but not seeing anything else that sticks out or is of note. What ended up happening to Trey Sermon last night? What was the injury? I know it was arm, but couldn't move it when he left the field.
I couldn't tell if he had a stinger or if he'd suffered some sort of a shoulder injury.
He was like doing this, like his head was kind of tilted over. He was having a hard time.
They obviously did the right thing by not letting him come back out.
Ole Miss recruited him back in the day out of high school. I remember some of that.
Yeah. Ended up at Oklahoma to start.
Yeah.
It was Ross Dellinger did a great story about him over the weekend. It was in 10 Thoughts. Hadn't had a lot of breaks coming up. Had a rough childhood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did see that, a good bit of that. They appeared to get a little bit of access for the title game.
Yeah.
They did a little better with media and
actually allowed some in-person stuff.
Yeah, that's what I was seeing throughout the day. Basketball 6 o'clock tonight. Ole Miss and Florida from Gainesville. Has Florida done any upgrades on that Coliseum at all, or is it still kind of run down? And
I think they've done some to it, but
it's not great.
Nah. It was built as this all-purpose facility, and it served its purpose for a long time. It's fine. These days, the way college basketball is, I can't believe I'm saying this, but you got to think really hard before you just throw gazillions into it.
The league doesn't have a lot of really nice arenas. I mean, you look around the league, and there's a lot of just, okay.
Listen, I'm a basketball guy. I like basketball, but you can make the argument that college basketball has devolved into a niche sport. You make the argument that college basketball has become a 1-month sport.
March.
At most schools. It's niche. I'm not saying it's true. I'm saying you can make that argument, and it's valid.
I think it's, and I guess this is actually proving its niche, and I'm making your point. It's so many schools around the country, any lack of competitiveness, and it falls off. Because look, Ole Miss right now, the fan base, Kermit's risking losing a fan base right now. I think that's a very fair statement completely.
Next couple of weeks, for sure. Mm-hmm.
I mean, whatever the number is, I don't remember it, but he's 9-19 in his last 28 SEC games, something like that. Yeah. I might be one off, but it's somewhere along
You're in
those
the ballpark.
Yeah, it was somewhere right there. And Ole Miss historically has been that fan base that, especially when football's rolling, when baseball's good, that basketball, if it's not competitive, you start slipping out a little bit. Because look, I was talking to a buddy about this earlier today. It's not even necessarily that Ole Miss is not in the tournament today or that they're whatever. The concern is that Ole Miss is frankly not very good today. You can be competitive and have everybody hang with you. Andy saw that a lot over the course of his tenure. He put really competitive, okay teams in.
You have to be able, as a fan, to be able to convince yourself that, hey, this team has a chance to be a tournament team.
Sure, yeah.
Where the bubble pulls you in. We've done lots of podcasts on the bubble.
Oh, a lot. I've had Kim Palm pulled up a ton on my computer.
If we can't do a bubble podcast, here's the truth. Our analytics, it's not worth talking about.
If you're in the middle of, hey, we can't do a bubble and we can't do a coaching search, what are we talking about? They are what they are.
So you have to start doing other things. People go, why are y'all talking about candy during basketball season? Because the candy gets better analytics.
Yeah.
We're a business too.
Look, it's where Ole Miss is sitting right now, and it's what we talked about, that at least at this moment, the team was kind of overhyped in the preseason. And when you look at
here's his Kermit's problem.
Yeah, sure.
It's not that the team was overhyped in the preseason. It's that he overhyped it.
Yeah. Well, my point is the problems Ole Miss has right now, and look, I'm far from a basketball savant, but the problems Ole Miss has as a basketball team right now, we could have predicted those problems if we just look at it with blinders and go, okay, what does this roster really look like? Because, look, Jarkel Joyner may get better. I have no idea. I know nothing about Jarkel Joyner, but he didn't have a ton of offers out of high school.
And last year, multiple times.
Yeah.
And he did it on this podcast. And this is not me piling on Kermit at all. But this is the fan concern, and I think it's valid. Kermit said Jarkel was the best player on our team for a lot of last year.
Yeah, there was the direct quote and a lot of indirect quotes that Jarkel could replace Breein Tyree, man to man.
Yes.
So Jarkel didn't have to deal with the length he has to deal with now when he was at Bakersfield. There's a lot of reasons why he went, okay, this might not work. And frankly, I love the kid.
Sure.
But Devontae's been a shell for a while. You could have easily made the argument that Devontae's not in position mentally, physically, whatever you want to call it, to be Batman. And Ole Miss has to have him be Batman. And he's never been Batman before. He's been Robin, okay, with Breein, but he's never been Batman. So Devontae had to get
Robin.
there.
His best role was when he was whatever the third person to Batman and Robin would be when they had TD and Breein.
Yeah, that's my point. So he's never been that guy. Well, that happens, and then Romello, we talk about, hey, why is the offense not running through him, whatever. Romello's been exactly what they hoped Romello would be. He's been fine. But when you can't shoot from outside, suddenly everybody's packing inside. They're denying lanes. You can't run your offense through them, and then Ole Miss is not very good at that kind of that entry offense anyway. That's not what they do. That's not the way they're built. So when you look at all those different things, you look up and go, okay, well, that's exactly what could have happened when we looked at it objectively to start the deal, and that's where they are right now.
And the reason we didn't is because I had those questions. I had questions about Jarkel Joyner. I remember you and I having this conversation privately last year when I saw the first time, and I think it was Ben Garrett that had those quotes, and Ben got beaten up for the quotes, and I kind of defended Ben with, well, they're in quote marks.
Mm-hmm.
Ben didn't say those things.
Yeah.
Kermit said those things.
Sure.
And that's okay. But when you say those things as the head coach, boy, if they don't come to fruition, you're going to take a beating for them. And I remember thinking, God, I hate going here. That kid was in Oxford, and AK and his staff saw him play a lot and just didn't think he could play at this level. It's not that they didn't think he was good, but can you play at this level? As a two-guard, as a wing in this league, which is full of guys. This league is chock full of guys who are really athletic. And if they were better offensive players, they'd be in the league, man.
Mm-hmm.
Full of those guys. Can you get shots off consistently? And then what happens when you start to press? Tonight's interesting because Florida's best player is not playing.
Obviously.
And without him, they're just a solid team. They're not going to just wow you athletically. But they're capable of kicking your ass. And then you get Georgia at home on Saturday, and it's a must-win game.
Sure.
Arkansas beat them by 30 the other night. It's a game you have to win.
They're not good.
And if this week gets away, it's lights.
Yeah.
In the middle of January. In a year where, quite frankly, and I'm going to say it, and I'm going to get in trouble, and people are going to get mad, and it's okay. This is where the pandemic takes part of the decision process away. And don't get me wrong, I don't think Kermit's on a hot seat.
He's not being fired.
He's not on a warm seat.
No.
But now when there's no one at the games, it's because you can at least tell yourself, well, I don't know what it's fair. I don't know what it would be like if there weren't a pandemic.
Yeah, there's 940 people in an arena right now.
So it's empty.
Yeah.
But it does, if this season can't get rolling and they can't get to where they thought they would be, and people say, well, why don't you ask this question? Because they've played 3 SEC games. There's 15 more to go. It's too early to ask the question. But there will come a point where, Kermit, you talked about this team in glowing terms before the season. In the middle of the season, after the Dayton game, he talked about how much he loves this team.
What happened?
Why did it never fulfill your expectations?
Yeah.
But it's too early for that yet because they could win tonight. They're only a 3-4 point underdog. They could win Saturday, and all of a sudden you're 3-2, and now some of this sounds a little silly, so you got to be careful with going too far with it. But there's certainly some warning signs that are available to be seen on the court.
Mm-hmm.
And the other night against LSU, when Devontae Shuler gives them nothing, and Romello White gives them nothing, and KJ Buffin gets pulled after 15 minutes because, for once again, he can't control his emotions on the floor. Well, now all of a sudden, if you replicate that too many times, you're not going to be a good team.
Yeah. Ole Miss, Florida tonight, 6 o'clock for that one. We'll be back tomorrow to talk about something. Might have a guest. I don't know. Either way, we'll be here. We'll have a podcast for you. Hope you join us. I assume 1 o'clock for that one, normal time. So,
yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah, sounds good. Appreciate everybody today for hanging out, for talking to us. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll talk to you again very soon.